welcome to Auto News Talk. I want you to imagine walking into a car showroom right now.
Okay, setting the scene. I like it.
Yeah, so over in one corner, you've got this practical $25,000 electric commuter car that honestly looks like a spaceship.
Right.
But then you look over in the opposite corner, and there sits a 600 horsepower, gas-guzzling muscle car. It is just a completely wild contrast.
It really is, yeah.
And it tells you pretty much everything you need to know about this massive identity crisis happening behind the scenes in the auto industry. I mean, on paper, the industry claims it is marching toward this streamlined, electric, software-driven utopia.
The key phrase there being on paper.
Exactly. Because down in the trenches, automakers are violently slamming on the brakes. They're battling these incredibly messy buyer demands, soaring engineering costs, and, well, the stubborn limits of basic human behavior.
And that is exactly the terrain we're navigating for this discussion. We're walking through an industry caught in an impossible balancing act.
A total tightrope walk.
Yeah, and we're going to explore how global and local consumer demands are just completely fracturing right now. Plus, how automakers are fundamentally rewriting their manufacturing playbooks just to survive.
Right.
And eventually, we'll get into why the shiny promise of artificial intelligence on the dealership floor is hitting a very, very human bottleneck.
I mean, to me, it feels like the entire industry is trying to change a tire while driving down the highway at 70 miles per hour.
That is a great visual.
Right. Like, they have to invent this futuristic, electrified tomorrow, but they also have to keep the assembly lines running and keep the lights on in the present moment.
That's a great way to picture the friction we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
But let's look at the actual mechanics of that moving vehicle, especially when you examine the powertrain pivot and the massive reality check hitting the electric vehicle market.
Yeah, let's unpack that, because there's an industry report from Auto News Talk focusing on EV demand, and it paints this fascinating, almost contradictory picture.
It really does.
So the data shows that global EV sales are actually up 9% year over year. So you'd think, okay, the global appetite is growing.
On a macro level, sure.
But then you zoom in on North America, and sales plummeted 27% after federal incentives expired. I mean,
Right.
that is a massive cliff.
The divergence is stark,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it completely unmasks the true nature of the market. I mean, the industry is committed to electrification, but they are being forced to adapt to severe affordability pressures.
Yeah, people just can't afford them.
Right. In North America, the sheer lack of financial support exposed this very fragile, incredibly price-sensitive consumer base.
And to cope with that 27% drop, automakers obviously started cutting their own internal incentive spending to stop the financial bleeding.
Which makes sense on a spreadsheet.
Right, but here's the ironic twist from that same Auto News Talk report. Cutting those incentives actually pushed the average U.S. EV price up by 1.2% month over month.
Yeah, it's a fascinating metric.
Why does that happen, though? It seems completely counterintuitive that trying to save money makes the cars more expensive for the consumer.
It's a brilliant question, actually, and it comes down to the mechanics of product planning. You know, when those incentives vanished, automakers didn't just quietly eat the cost.
They never do.
Exactly. They looked at their margins and realized, well, we can't afford to sell the cheap stuff anymore. So they quietly stopped building and shipping the entry-level, low-margin trims.
Because those base models simply weren't profitable without the government help.
Precisely. That leaves only the expensive, fully loaded models sitting on the dealership lot. So the average transaction price artificially inflates, even in a slumping market.
Wow. Which completely forces a pivot in product planning across the board. You see brands suddenly leaning heavily into value on the internal combustion side just to capture those hesitant, priced-out buyers.
They had to put them in something.
Right. And the report highlights Jeep, for example, releasing a lower-priced off-road Grand Cherokee trim, the Laredo Upland.
Yeah, that's a classic retention move.
They're practically looking at the consumer and saying, listen, if you won't buy our expensive EV, here is a rugged, value-focused gas package to keep you in the brand family.
Exactly. But the strain on the EV manufacturing side is still very real.
Oh, absolutely. The absolute most memorable detail from this coverage for me is that a General Motors and LG battery plant in Ohio was shut down for 7 months due to weak demand. 7 months.
Yeah, a shutdown of that magnitude is catastrophic.
I can't even imagine the cost of that.
Well, you have to understand the economics of a battery plant. These facilities have massive kilns, delicate chemical supply chains, and highly trained workforces.
That's right. It's not a normal warehouse.
No. Not at all. You don't just flip a light switch and send everyone home for half a year without taking a massive financial hit. It underscores this intense, almost paralyzing challenge of aligning long-term, multi-billion-dollar battery investments with short-term, volatile market fluctuations.
The big missing piece in that report, though, and what this doesn't answer, is how long this North American EV slump is actually going to last. Or, exactly which specific incentive expirations triggered that massive 27% drop. We just see the devastating fallout.
And that fallout is forcing legacy automakers to break their oldest, most sacred traditions just to survive the uncertainty.
Yeah.
We see this vividly in another piece of coverage from Auto News Talk, detailing Honda's reported partnership with Tata Technologies.
Okay, wait. This one legitimately blew my mind.
It's a big deal.
It is. So Honda is reportedly outsourcing a multi-powertrain platform to India's Tata Technologies. And this platform is designed to handle internal combustion, hybrid, and battery electric vehicles all at once.
Yes.
And Honda is pivoting hard to hybrids, planning 15 next-generation models globally. But Honda, the company that practically worships its own engineering.
Ring company, yeah.
Outsourcing their core platform seems like brand suicide. How do they possibly justify that? It's like a Michelin star chef outsourcing their signature sauce recipe just to keep the restaurant open.
I love that analogy, but let's take it a step further.
Yep.
Honda realizes that the physical platform, like the actual metal chassis, is no longer the signature sauce.
Wait, really?
Yeah. In a software-defined, electrified world, the battery management system and the software architecture are the new sauce. So they aren't outsourcing the food, they're just outsourcing the plate.
Oh, wow. Okay, that makes a lot more sense when you frame it like that.
Right, and they're making this move because of the relentless pressure on margins.
Mm-hmm.
The article highlights Honda's internal triple half initiative.
Right, the triple hat.
It's this incredibly aggressive goal to cut development time, cost, and workload by a staggering 50%.
Which is insane.
You simply don't achieve a 50% reduction by doing things the way you've always done them. You have to break the mold. Furthermore, India is a crucial growth market for them. The report suggests this new platform might first appear as a sub-4-meter SUV.
I was wondering about that. Why specifically sub-4 meter?
Because it's specifically designed to beat local size-based tax structures in India. It's a highly localized strategy, but it has massive global implications.
So it's about ruthless efficiency. But it's also a massive testament to India's engineering capabilities, isn't it?
Precisely. The core implication here is that India is undeniably rising as an end-to-end global engineering powerhouse. We're no longer talking about global automakers outsourcing low-level IT or support tasks.
Yeah, just cheap labor.
Right. It's beyond that. Tata Technologies is reportedly handling the full end-to-end development for a major global platform.
Now, the one blank spot in this strategy, what this doesn't answer, mainly because neither Honda nor Tata have officially confirmed the ink is dry on this deal, is the exact scope and timing. It's a massive reported shift, but the granular details are still basically behind closed doors.
True. But even as a reported strategy, it perfectly illustrates the central theme of the market right now. Automakers cannot afford to bet their entire existence on one single powertrain.
Which brings us to the absolute chaos hitting the streets. I mean, when you look at what's actually rolling off assembly lines, it is an everything, everywhere market.
Chaos is a good word for it.
A piece tracking Car and Driver headlines notes that the industry is moving on multiple, totally conflicting tracks at the exact same time. The product planning boards at these companies must look entirely schizophrenic.
You basically have ultra efficiency and ultra excess competing for the exact same pool of engineering resources.
They really do. Because on one side of the ledger, automakers are pushing hard into cheap EVs. We're talking about a new Kia priced under $35,000 and Ford developing a $25,000 SUV.
Which consumers desperately want.
Right. But simultaneously, on the other side of the room, they're pumping out massive gas-guzzling performance cars like it's the 1960s.
Oh, yeah.
We have McLaren teasing manual transmission supercars and Dodge debuting a 600-horsepower Charger six-pack.
Don't forget the trucks.
Oh, right. Add to that a highlighted 777-horsepower Ram street truck priced just under $100,000.
And the implication of trying to build everything for everyone, eco-friendly commuters, budget-friendly SUVs, and high-performance gas guzzlers, is that automakers are stretched incredibly thin.
And you see that severe strain showing up directly in the quality control, don't you?
Yes, absolutely.
Because that same car and driver headline tracker shows safety recalls becoming a massive defining burden across the entire industry. I mean, you've got Toyota recalling 500,000 Camrys over blank instrument gauges, Ram recalling 1.2 million pickups for faulty seatbelts, Ford and Mercedes facing huge, sweeping recalls.
It's an epidemic of recalls.
Why are we seeing this specific explosion in quality issues?
Well, it's the complexity multiplier. Think about the nightmare of being a quality assurance engineer right now. You're trying to test software and hardware that has to communicate across internal combustion engines, complex plug-in hybrids, and entirely new battery electric architectures.
All at the same time.
Exactly. When you stretch your teams that thin across that many completely different physical platforms, the complexity multiplies exponentially. And complexity is the absolute enemy of reliability.
The real mystery lurking behind these headlines, though, what this coverage doesn't answer, is the specific root cause for this massive concurrent wave of multi-million vehicle safety recalls across so many different brands. Like, is it a consolidated supplier issue? Is it just sheer software complexity? We're kind of left guessing at the exact failure points.
Whatever the granular root cause is, it definitively proves that managing the mechanics of this transition is far more difficult than predicting it on a spreadsheet.
For sure. And if you want the ultimate proof of how weird and unpredictable this transition is, the most memorable detail from those car and driver headlines is what's happening in California.
Well, this is a fascinating data point.
It is, because California is the strict, undisputed heartland of zero-emission goals, right? But the data shows that hybrids have officially overtaken EVs in new vehicle registrations there.
That California hybrid statistic is vital to understand. It tells us that consumer pragmatism is winning out over ideological purity, even in the most progressive markets in the world.
But why? I mean, if you live in California, you're practically surrounded by EV culture. Why the sudden pivot back to hybrids?
Because real-world utility eventually beats the narrative. Buyers are experiencing major infrastructure fatigue.
The chargers just don't work.
Right. They're dealing with range anxiety, broken public chargers, and high electricity rates. They want to be eco-conscious, but they also want to be able to drive to Tahoe without mapping out 3 different charging stops. A plug-in hybrid offers a pragmatic, stress-free bridge.
So, with automakers stretched so thin trying to build everything and consumers sending mixed signals, how are these massive companies coping internally?
Well, it leads us to how they're retreating to their home turf and radically simplifying their operations. We see a very clear example of this supply chain simplification in an Auto News Talk report focusing on Ford and Lincoln.
Right. Ford is pulling Lincoln manufacturing back to the United States and ending China imports for the American market by the end of the decade.
Which is a huge reversal.
A total reversal of a previous strategic decision to import the Nautilus from China. Moving forward, heavy hitters like the Navigator and Aviator will still be exported globally, but they'll be built exclusively in U.S. plants.
The implication of this shift is profound. I mean, for decades, the auto industry chased the absolute lowest possible labor costs, regardless of geography.
Yeah, that was the entire playbook.
But now, geopolitics and tariff uncertainties are actively rewriting global supply chains. Automakers are factoring in geopolitical risk as a massive cost center.
Right.
Sometimes paying a higher labor rate in your home country is actually cheaper than risking a sudden tariff hike or a sudden supply chain embargo.
And Ford is making sure everyone knows it's a domestic play. The memorable detail here is a direct quote from Ford CEO Jim Farley, framing this heavily as a patriotic commitment. He stated, "Lincoln is an American brand, and Ford is America's automaker."
Yeah, they're leaning heavily into the fact that this move creates thousands of direct and indirect U.S. jobs.
It's a strategic marketing message as much as an operational one. But, you know, as with all massive manufacturing shifts, there's a lot left unsaid.
Always.
Yeah. What this announcement doesn't answer, what Ford is keeping closely guarded for now, is which specific Lincoln models will be added to those U.S. lines, or if they're going to need to make massive new plant investments to pull this off. Reshoring manufacturing isn't just flipping a switch, it's incredibly capital intensive.
Exactly. It takes billions. But, you know, the desperate need to fix operations doesn't stop at the factory floor. It extends all the way down to the local dealership, where the customer actually signs the paperwork and buys the car.
Oh, dealership operations.
Yeah, and another piece of analysis from Auto News Talk on dealer automation proves that dropping new technology into an old system isn't the savior people think it is.
This brings us to the human element. Dealerships are facing intense margin pressures, staffing constraints, and massive regulatory compliance requirements. The back office of a dealership is often, frankly, a chaotic mess of paper, highlighters, and filing cabinets.
So naturally, dealership principals turn to software to solve a human problem.
Right, the magic bullet.
The article highlights dealerships adopting AI and intelligent document processing, or IDP, to automatically read finance agreements, invoices, and delivery notes.
Okay, for anyone not in the weeds on dealership finance, what exactly is IDP doing?
It's essentially training an AI to act as a financial auditor. It can scan a dense 30-page finance agreement, instantly pull out the interest rate, the term length, the customer's income variables, and flag any discrepancies without a human ever having to read the fine print.
On paper, it sounds like absolute magic for efficiency.
It sounds like magic until you account for human psychology.
Right. The article makes a crucial point. These projects completely fail if dealership leaders treat them just as software drops rather than true operational transformations.
Yes, because technology is just a tool. It doesn't change a culture on its own.
The absolute best and kind of most tragic detail from this source is the specific scenario where, without executive direction, dealership employees will literally just keep doing manual paperwork right next to their shiny new automated tools.
It's amazing.
They'll have a cutting-edge AI that can verify a finance agreement in 3 seconds, and they'll still print it out, pull out a pen and a pink highlighter, and verify it by hand, because that is what they're comfortable doing.
It perfectly illustrates that across the entire automotive industry, human behavior and executive buy-in are the true bottlenecks to efficiency. The IDP technology works flawlessly.
But no one uses it.
Right. If dealership leadership doesn't actively redefine the workflow, establish new operational goals, and force a cultural shift, the expensive software is entirely useless.
The frustrating part of this analysis, though, what this piece doesn't answer, is the actual financial cost of implementing these IDP systems, or what the exact hard ROI looks like for a standard dealership. It tells us the behavioral cost of failure, but not the dollar cost of implementation.
True, but I think it successfully bridges the gap between the macro, billion-dollar industry trends and the micro, everyday reality of selling a car to a consumer.
Let's tie all of this together, because we've covered massive ground across these 5 distinct areas of the market. What are the big themes we should take away from all this chaos?
Well, I see 3 distinct themes emerging from this landscape. The first is flexibility over purity.
Okay, flexibility over purity.
Automakers are realizing they cannot afford to be dogmatic about the future. We see this clearly supported by Honda's decision to build a platform that handles internal combustion, hybrids, and EVs all at once.
Right, the Tata partnership.
And it's reinforced by the Car and Driver headlines showing California buyers pivoting hard to hybrids over pure EVs. Pragmatism is winning.
What's the second theme?
The second is shifting geographic hubs. The global map of where cars are designed, engineered, and built is being aggressively redrawn.
Yeah, that was wild to see.
We see Ford pulling Lincoln manufacturing out of China and back to the U.S. to avoid geopolitical risk, while at the exact same time, Honda is leaning heavily into India's Tata Technologies, proving that India is becoming a true center for end-to-end engineering, not just support.
So the map is moving. And the third theme?
The third is the human bottleneck. Whether it's on a macro or micro scale, human behavior is dictating the pace of change.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Ford is relying on the patriotic appeal of American manufacturing jobs to anchor its brand identity. And the dealership automation article proves that the most advanced AI fails completely without human leadership driving the change.
It's fascinating, and it highlights some massive undeniable tensions in the data, too.
Oh, definitely.
First, we have the tension of global versus local realities. I mean, the Auto News Talk data shows global EV demand rising 9%, while the exact same data source shows the North American market collapsing by 27% without federal incentives. You absolutely cannot treat the world as one homogeneous market.
You can't. And the second major tension is cost-cutting versus complexity. You have Honda desperately trying to cut development costs by 50% through outsourcing, which contrasts incredibly sharply with the Car and Driver headlines showing automakers building wildly complex, diverging lineups.
Cheap EVs next to heavy-duty trucks next to manual supercars.
Exactly. And that exploding complexity is resulting in massive, million-strong safety recalls.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? The practical takeaway here is that whether you're the CEO of a multinational automaker or a local dealership manager, survival right now means staying agile.
Agility is everything.
Committing rigidly to a single path, like saying we're only doing EVs or we're just going to drop in new software and fix our back office, is a complete recipe for failure in today's unpredictable landscape.
That's the perfect synthesis. We're watching an industry that spent a century mastering metal, oil, and combustion, waking up to a harsh new reality. Succeeding in the future requires mastering software, navigating volatile geopolitics, and most importantly, understanding human psychology. That's it for this segment of Auto News Talk. The next time you walk into a dealership, don't just look at the shiny cars parked on the lot. Look at the software the finance manager is using behind the desk. Are they leveraging an automated future, or are they still bogged down with pink highlighters and printed contracts?
It's a great litmus test.
That screen will tell you more about whether that automotive brand will survive the next decade than anything sitting in the showroom. Keep that in mind, and we'll catch you on the next one.